Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome in. As you're joining us, please go ahead and pull out your cell phone devices and go ahead and join us there at our Mentimeter poll. We want to know, today is all about the FAFSA, and we want to know how you're feeling, all of the feelings about it. So go ahead and scan that for us or join at the web version. We're going to get started in a couple of seconds here. Just waiting for some more people to jump in. Thank you for coming. If you're first seeing this now, please head over to that QR code or the web version. We want to know how what some words and feelings that you're feeling about the FAFSA currently and what it all relates to you. So let us know how it's going and we'll get started in a little bit. Confusion, unknown, surprised. Surprised is definitely a good way to put it. Let us know how you're feeling. Impatient, nervous. I think we all are a little nervous. Yikes. That's good too. Tell us how you're feeling. Go ahead and join us there, whether it's the QR code or on the web version. We want to know how you're feeling about the FAFSA, all the changes. Hopefully a little bit of that is relieved today as we talk about some FAFSA, some strategies related to it. Hopefully we can get rid of some of that uncertainty or nervousness or other unknowns and confusion for you guys too. So couple more. Why? I love it. We should do these all the time for even just like regular meetings. How are you feeling about things? Lots of unknowns.
I think I want to do that. That would be really fun.
You know, like if we were going to put up a poll here in Buffalo about how you're feeling about the spring weather, it would be not great. But, you know, if you live in another more temperate area, then you're probably feeling great. So let's go ahead and get started while we have a couple more people jumping in. Everyone can come on in and welcome. So I am going to share my screen quick too. And we are off and rolling. So we had that poll up. Today is all about the FAFSA and how we can use Cadence to kind of help overcome some of these feelings that we were feeling. So here we are, Cadence Campus Live. So for those of you who are new, welcome. For those of you who have been to a couple of these now, welcome back. We are excited to have this Cadence Campus Live. What it is kind of a mashup of what a couple of things that we've been doing here at Mongoose. It was a combination of the former Cadence Campus Live newsletter that would bring you a lot of highlights, product sneak peeks, other student engagement tips. And then every couple of months, we used to have Cadence boot camps that would focus on some other hot topics across campus and how Cadence would help use those. With the engagement of our newsletter, as well as our boot camps, we wanted to combine them into one all-you-can-eat 30-minute webinar, and Cadence Campus Live was born, and we're happy to have everyone here joining me. Speaking of joining me, obviously we have our support team in the background. We also have Jen, our extraordinaire in the background there too. But my guest of today's episode is Dustie Hamilton. She is the enrollment at McLennan. Dustie, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself for everybody?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Dustie Hamilton. I'm the Director of Enrollment Systems here at McLennan Community College in Waco, Texas. And I work really closely with admissions, recruitment, and support some of our other enrollment departments, including financial aid and marketing and communications. I do most of the communications for the campus, and I work extensively a lot in Cadence with communications and supporting departments that are texting. So
Awesome. Thank you, Dusty, and welcome. I am actually going to stop my share. Now, for those of you playing along at home, if you have any questions, whether they're for me, for Dusty, for anybody in the background, you can go ahead and put them in the chat or the Q&A. Our team will be on it, and we'll be able to happily answer those questions as the episode is going on. So that brings me to my first question for Dusty. So if those have been maybe living under a rock and they don't know why everyone is feeling unknown about what the FAF's going on with FAFSA, can you kind of explain what's different about FAFSA now versus what it was even just a couple months ago?
Yes. So at the end of, I believe, 2020, we're hopefully all familiar with the FAFSA Simplification Act that was passed, which really essentially was an overhaul of how we, manage and process student aid and award student aid to students. And within that big umbrella was, of course, simplifying the FAFSA application. And so with that, it made the form go from somewhere around 100 questions, give or take, to around 36-ish questions for users now. So the idea was to make it shorter, more simple for people to complete. And then along with that, the eligibility criteria, determining eligibility for aid, make that process a little bit simpler for schools and for students to, or applicants to know. And then we all know that through that process, it's been anything but simple. We've seen where, we've had the FAFSA was up and then it was down, and then there was an issue with the analysis tool and determining eligibility, and then they had to make adjustments for inflation, which has, led us to this, I won't say dumpster fire, for lack of a better word, but kind of situation that we've been in for the past few months. And so schools haven't been able to receive those ISRs to start processing those FAFSAs. We've seen a significant decline in people filling out FAFSAs. So that's kind of where we are currently with that.
A lot of we'll say hiccups
Yes.
to get everybody started, not for lack of trying to make things better. So at least we'll put one foot kind of in front of the other slowly as we kind of figure this out. So
and I will say, as a parent who's filled it out, that experience has been positive, but I think just getting there and working through that, there has been lots of hiccups. Yes.
patience, I guess, would be a good word we could have maybe needed in that flow. So okay, so you are an avid Cadence user, both on the text and the chat side. So can you tell me about how you're kind of like proactively communicating to students when it, like, specifically for when it comes to like FAFSA?
Yes, so we're a community college, so we're a 2-year school. So being open access and kind of how our enrollment process is structured, we haven't been impacted like some of the 4-year colleges and universities or schools that are really deadline driven. We haven't had that sort of issue, but some things that we've focused on is the number of applications are down. And so some of the things that we're looking at doing is our financial aid office is going to work on communicating to our current students that maybe haven't renewed yet and letting them know, hey, you can renew now. It's okay to go and fill it out. We're starting to receive some of that data. I'm a team of one, but myself, along with working with admissions and marketing, is getting messaging out to new applicants saying, hey, make sure that you go ahead and fill out your FAFSA. You can definitely do that. Some other things is that, like, we're doing some workshops. One of our trio departments is reaching out and scheduling FAFSA workshops to help people complete those. And the good news is we are starting to receive some of those ISRs. And so I think the Department of Ed said they were either close to getting through the backlog or maybe they've completed the backlog by this point. And so hopefully we start to kind of see some coming in and we can kind of start rolling. And then another thing that we're looking at, it's not Mongoose related, but we are looking at making just some phone calls through our default management, our company, and just they can reach out and say, we can help you with FAFSA, or we can help you how to get started. So that's another thing that we're kind of looking into to see if that would be beneficial for us.
Right. Those courses, those classes that they put on for FAFSA and like getting them helped out, are those for current students as well as the prospective students too?
Yes. Anybody that that needs help, is interested, can come to those, and they'll help. And we're really unique too in the way that our recruiters, they are cross-trained to do everything. So they know the admissions process, the financial aid process, they even advise students. So they are also working with high schools and saying, hey, they already do application workshops. So they're like, hey, we can do FAFSA workshops too. So we're trying to encourage that completion.
Everybody needs some jack of all trades kind of thing in their in their offices for sure.
Right. Yeah, it's helpful in situations like these for sure.
Awesome. So now you have a unique like outlook on this from a community college perspective, from an admissions perspective, and you also have this from a parent perspective too. So can you kind of tell me like what advice do you have for others, whether that's for admissions or financial aid departments? Like what if you had any parting words for them, what would they be?
Yeah, so somebody put patience up there on the Wordle, and I think that's what we're all trying to be patient. It's hard, but I just in kind of like following along with all of the information that's coming out. I know that if you're in a situation where you can do this, some schools are using like cost estimators. So I mean, we all have those on our website, but they're making them more visible. That way that students and parents at least have an idea of, okay, here's what I'm looking at. Even if my FAFSA was delayed, here are some options I have. Some people are doing like their own like internal FAFSA, and they're collecting some information and just trying to set up awards that way and guaranteeing them. So if you have those resources available to you, I think that is something that you could look into. So especially you don't, lose applicants or people that have, submitted their deposit and they're ready to go with that fear of, well, I don't know if I'm just going to be what I'm going to be looking at financially. And then NASPA and the FSA partners, that's another great resource that you can follow. They post updates almost daily of how things are going and the status of things. And so that's also just a really good resource. They've got webinars, they've got all kinds of communications. They record them, they put them up on their website. So that's a really good way to kind of stay up to date. And then you can, hopefully draft your communication plans for your schools. Another thing that we're really interested in at MCC is the Department of Ed has a website. They have a FAFSA tracker. So you can actually go and enter in high schools and see their numbers and how many have completed those FAFSAs. So it could give you a good idea and help you know, like, hey, this is where we need to focus our communication on and try to encourage those FAFSA completions, because it is one thing if they've completed it and it's in limbo, but if people are waiting to complete it, it's just going to put you that much further behind. So just really encouraging, to go out and start that application. And a lot of schools are doing workshops, virtual, in person, to help with that. And then just kind of remembering too that, anytime something new is implemented, and I think everybody probably here has been through an implementation and knows that when something changes, there's hiccups, there's bumps, and things that have to be resolved, to get it working just right. And just kind of remembering, hopefully, that using this as an opportunity to learn a lot from this situation. I think that, just kind of like COVID, we learned a lot about our students. We learned a lot about our institutions and what they're capable of and we're capable of. And I think we could use this as an opportunity to say, okay, here's what we're noticing right now when we're telling people, that there are delays, and, what can we do? What tools do we have? So just kind of trying to use it as an opportunity to look at your processes and your communications and just how you can maybe create a better experience with students when they're engaging with us.
That's great. I did love your point too about the cost calculator, because I know a lot of schools obviously have it, but they kind of bury it, make it kind of difficult to hide because they don't necessarily want those students to kind of get some sticker shock or anything like that. But any tool that's like similar to that to help them, at least your students kind of give an idea of what they can expect, even if it is just a starting point where they can get some sort of like education around what they might want to be planning for. So that's a great point.
Right. Yeah. I think that transparency is important because, having something in front of you is better than nothing in the unknown. And, trying to plan around the unknown is hard. So yeah, I think that it's a good tool if you can have it out there for them to look at.
That's great. Quick reminder to everybody too, if you have questions, throw them in the chat. That's why we're here. So we can keep rolling. So Dusty, we talked about like you necessarily didn't have like a personal struggle filling it out. You thought it was like great because it was cut down. But what struggles have you seen from students? How are you communicating with them to help, kind of thing?
Right. So initially, some struggles that we had heard of was things like the parent not getting the email inviting them to go do their portion, or a student who has a parent that does not have a social being able to put that information on the FAFSA. So those things have now been, to my knowledge, fixed, is what I've heard recently the other day. And so, but just some other things that we see a lot from our students, and just how we communicate with them is we have a lot of students who they go part-time. About 65% of our students, I believe, are eligible for Pell Grant, and they also have families. And so paying for college and how am I going to pay for this and what's available to me is huge for them. And so a lot of things that we try to do and some things that we've set up for them is in all of our inquiry campaigns, we encourage people to do a FAFSA and to go look at all of our types of scholarships and opportunities, even state financial aid that we have available. We've also just developed a web page called Paying for College that has a lot of resources to help them understand what all is available to them and options that they have to pay for school. Our basic needs office, in addition to how am I going to pay, it's also how am I going to do this while I work, while I take care of families and things like that. And so our basic needs office, they utilize Mongoose a lot, about getting out to them. Here's the resources we have. Here's when our food pantry is open. Here's legal services that are available today. Just different types of services that we have. And then we've developed emergency grants as well. And then on the other side of that, our Enrollment Services Center, they are integrated. Our Mongoose is integrated with our CRM. And so one thing that they are doing is the enrollment process can kind of be difficult to navigate. And so just trying to figure out where you are in the process and what you need to do. And every student is different. And so one thing that we've been able to do is they are utilizing Mongoose to reach out to students and text them and say, hey, we know you've submitted an app. What else can we do to help? You've got some things you still need to turn in. And then they get that one-on-one texting, with a person that kind of can help them get through that process. And so we've seen a lot of success with that as well.
That is a nice segue into my next question. You talked about how you're communicating with them through text. So do you have any other specific examples of how you're using Cadence specifically to help communicate those needs? And this might not even need to be a specific like FAFSA kind of discussion, but any kind of like communications with them of how you're using Cadence.
Right. Yeah. Yes, we do. So in addition to our basic needs office, pushing out resources, we send out our student accounts office. They text out payment reminders and payment deadlines. We've seen our drop numbers decrease because of that. So that's been a really good tool for them. Our foundation uses Mongoose to text when our scholarship application is opened up. I talked a little bit about our One Stop and how they're utilizing to text students, to text applicants. They are also texting students that maybe be stuck in the FAFSA verification process and can't seem to get out and say, hey, we noticed you're stuck. What can we help you? So they do that from time to time. One thing I'm really excited about is on our campus is we're starting to see more faculty use Mongoose. And so I think that that's going to be huge for retention. We hear a lot. It's kind of interesting because when we survey our students and we figure out how do you want to be contacted, they all say they want to be contacted by their student email, but then they don't always seem to maybe read their student email or check their student email, or we probably send them way too many emails, to be honest. And so it kind of gets lost in the shuffle. But we're starting to see more faculty use it in their classes. So I'm hoping that that's going to really help our retention efforts, because they're able to engage with those students early and kind of connect with them and have a way to communicate information. Our VA rep, I just last week got him onboarded. He is going to be using it to work with his VA students and help them get their request for benefits filled out. So I'm excited about that. And then also we have the chat bot, we have Harmony as well. And so that's been a great self-service tool, from a customer service standpoint, and experience. Students, they want help and they want that access to help, but then self-service is also really important. And so that's been a really good self-service tool for them. And I think that the bot answers, the last time I looked, like 80 or 90% of the questions. So yeah, so that's been a great tool for us as well. And then throughout all of these texting, all these different areas in the communications, they're utilizing templates and things like that. So the messaging is consistent. So yeah, it's been a really great tool for us.
That's great. I know in our planning meeting, you talked a little bit about your just-in-time messaging. And those were kind of like, we talked a little bit about proactive like nudges about like where they are in the process, whatever process that is. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that just-in-time kind of field?
Yes. So one thing, being at a community college that's, open access, we don't have here's an application date deadline, here's you submit your deposit, here's when enrollment stops, and then we have a time frame where we start. So our messaging doesn't ever get to kind of like segment like that. And so it's kind of just continuously. So there's always an application open, somebody's always applying, they're always in a different part of the process. And so, it can be challenging for us and it can be challenging for students, but just some of the ways that we've utilized that is, like, again, the application process. Based on where they are, they get personalized messaging, but then again, it comes in to Mongoose from our CRM, and they're able to schedule messages that go out to those students that and offer assistance on like, hey, we see you've applied, but you haven't turned things in yet. What can we do? Our dual credit office, they use it throughout the semester to gauge how their students are doing. So they're one of our offices utilizing smart messaging. So it's like, hey, just checking in mid-semester, how are you feeling? Give us a thumbs up or thumbs down. And then it allows them to focus on those ones that, give the thumbs down, and they can like say, hey, what's going on? How can we help? I also send out messages to thousands of students at a time. I utilize smart messaging when the semester is getting ready to start. I'm like, hey, classes are getting ready to start. Have you got your Brightspace set up? Have you checked your emails? Things like that. And just kind of allowing students to see, oh yeah, it is. Because one thing about us is, you can register, like we don't have classes that start till August 26th, but you can register for those classes starting April 1st. So if you do that, that's a long time between when you've registered and when it started. So we kind of utilize that just to kind of keep them engaged and make sure that, they don't forget about things, and then they get the payment reminder text. So it all kind of, flows pretty well. And then with faculty coming on board, to remind students about resources. One thing that we do now is we have a ton of resources, and I feel like a lot of schools have a ton of resources to help students. It's whether it's tutoring, counseling, anything like that. And so usually what would happen in the past is, that would get put on their learning management system, or it would be put in the course syllabus. But now we have and with faculty coming on board, I'm excited to, in addition to them being able to text like after an exam, like, hey, just reminding you, here's some services, tutoring is free, here's their hours. things like that, I think is going to be really, really helpful. And then another thing that I'm really excited about, I haven't started yet, but it's on my list, is the new feature. If there's Slate users on here and you've got, you probably saw the ability to text through Slate queries. I'm super excited about that because I build queries all the time, and being able to just pop in that query name and send them a message, like, I'm really excited about that. So I think that's also just going to increase our ability to do some just-in-time messaging as well. So
That's great. So you have the wherewithal to not only have, the typical dates around in a typical like semester where you should be throwing in those check-ins, but you also have to have your data clean to make sure like you're able to check in on them at the right points through whatever process they're in, because you guys have that process going on all year round kind of thing. So
right,
it's
yes,
very cool.
super important.
I want to just share my screen. So again, if you have questions, we have about 5 minutes left. So if you have them, throw them in. We want to get you have some involvement. So Dusty, my last question to you is to talk a little bit more about Mac, your Cadence chatbot. What do you like that Mac does for you and your staff? Talk to me about Mac.
So Mac, you may have to help me remember when we brought Mac on board. But we've been using him for a few months now. Great self-service tool. Setup was super easy, and working with you guys and getting that all set up and getting onboarded and going live. But yeah, just a great self-service tool. We've seen phone calls decrease because people are going on to our chatbot and they're able to get answers to those questions. A lot easier on time, just in time when they need it. And so it's been a super helpful tool for us. It's been a super helpful tool for our staff because it allows them to focus their efforts on, students that may have more complex issues and things like that. And it's another great tool that I think provides a great, student experience. But it's got a lot of great information. I love the analytics. I love to see how it's performing and when it's performing, just to kind of let us know, hey, this is when we're getting the most users and things like that. Our staff, our one-stop staff, they're pretty incredible about when somebody does want to talk to a human. Jumping on there, answering that question. I monitor it from time to time, and sometimes I want to go in and look at follow-ups, and there are no follow-ups because they jump in there and they handle it. So I think that kind of speaks to the efficiency of it too. Like, it's such an efficient tool. And so with all of our tools, like with the texting, even from our email to then the texting, to then the chat bot, I think all of those help with efficiency. So then they can focus on opportunities, just to help us keep providing a better experience. So it's been a really great tool. We've been really pleased with it.
We're really glad to hear that. Especially the decrease in calls and freeing up that staff time. That's what we're all about. So I'm not seeing any last questions in the chat. So that must mean you did a great job and told everybody what they needed to hear. So yeah, we are right at the end then. I want to remind everybody that we also have a bunch of other things going on. Gil Rogers is our host of our FYI podcast. He is now putting those out every week. Every Tuesday, the episodes drop. Actually, one today was able to drop too. So he actually is talking about harnessing TikTok for innovation in higher ed outreach. That's with Kyle Campbell. And then last week and other episodes, the challenge and impacts of the new FAFSA timeline with Mary Beth Marks. And there's a lot of other good episodes out there too. So make sure that you are tuning into those. They are all available on wherever you get your podcasts too. So, and then of course you want to know what's going up next with Cadence Campus Live. Next month's episode, I am very excited about. It's all about AI powered chat. So we're going to dive into what's coming, and we are very excited to kind of tout that. And joining me, I believe, will be one of our members of our dev engineering teams and maybe some from our product team too. So you'll get some cool sneak peeks and how that can help you guys, just like Mac is for you. So I want to thank everyone for joining me today, especially Dusty. Do you have any last parting words, everybody, as we get some time with the rest of our day?
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We will be looking forward to seeing you next month. Take care.